All right, sup everyone? Rebirth here. Um, let's see. All right, I'm about to get Sporkman on here. And copy that. All right, and actually, I'm about to start this over again. Um, Fuck. I mean, anyway, this. I mean, anyway. I mean, I mean, all right. Fuck is it? That's a second. All right. Let's see if I have everything set up. Okay. Sporkman, I'm about to send you that link soon. Or an Eric the link. There you go. So let me close that out. Right. Back to that. Copy the link down. Real quick. I'm going to hit my laptop. All right. See if it's sent. Okay, cool. All right.
You could come over tomorrow sometime.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. Hey, Rebirth.
Hey. Sorry about that.
I can't hear.
Yeah,
you have the mic muted.
Can you hear us?
Sometime.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. Hey, Rebirth.
Hey.
Sorry
about
that.
Yeah, you have the mic muted.
Hold on.
Can you hear us? Yeah, I'm sure we could. There's a delay.
Yeah, because I have. Hold on.
Yeah, you have the mic. Hold on. Can you hear us?
Sorry about that, Rebirth. I had my volume on the other one.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that.
Now, did you mute her somehow?
No, she's. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys well fine. Hello?
Hold on. You know what? Hold on, Rebirth. I gotta change my volume here.
All right, go ahead.
Part of the problem is sometimes this mic likes to overtake. I'll open volume mixer. No, it's going to the. Can you hear me, Rebirth?
Yep, you're still good.
Okay.
No, it's going to the.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Rebirth?
I'm having problems hearing Rebirth on my side here. Hold on, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Go ahead. Take your time.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Rebirth? I'm having problems hearing Rebirth.
See, we're getting back feed, and I don't like that. The delay is.
Yeah, we. Can she hear us? Did she say she can hear us?
I can't hear her.
I know. Well, I was thinking, well, no, if we put on the headsets, all it would do is it would still have the delay.
No, well, no, because it would mic in everything through the headsets.
You're currently experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Yeah, well, sometimes this.
Oh.
All right,
Okay. Yeah, it looks like we're gonna have to both wear headphones here. Your headphones have. I'll have the volume out so Paul can still hear it. Eric, does your headphones have a jack on it?
The USB port, yeah.
Okay.
So you're just gonna have to use your mic and I use mine or something?
No, we're just gonna use the mic. It's just we're gonna use the.
Well, how do we prevent my mic from working though on my headset?
Unplug it.
Oh, that's right. It has 2 plugs. Never mind. Yeah, it's. I'm sorry. It does have a separate audio jack. So we'll plug in the USB and don't plug in the other one.
Here, so you want to plug it in over here. And I'm going to go right here. External device.
Wish this thing clicked in a different way. It's like, what do you do with a t-shirt? I clip it to my belt and it tends to hit the volume button and I can't hear it.
So yeah, give me a moment here. Rebirth, can you wonder if you guys are hearing us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys just fine.
I'm not getting
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, give us a moment here. Hold on. We're not.
Guys, go ahead and take your time.
Can you hear anything? Yeah, the unfortunately thing is we can't hear Rebirth at all.
Can she hear us?
Yeah, she can hear us fine. Are you able to hear it?
We have a delay. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, there shouldn't be a delay here because it should be going off of... Hold on, let me look at the settings here.
Whether it's a delay or not, I mean, we're still not even hearing her.
Give me a moment here. Pull your headphone for a second here. I want to communications. Pull your for a second here. I want to pull your.
Now that's weird because it actually it repeated itself. You only said that once, but it actually didn't just have a delay. It like had a double delay where it played it and then played it again.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
really.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. Why? I mean, it works before, but now for some reason, why it doesn't want to.
Now she's trying to do it live, so like doing the same thing in Skype or something kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah,
she's trying to do it
live.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
There we go. I think I got you figured there, Rebirth.
All right. So you
right. Yes. So unfortunately, it looks like my mic was no. Eric, you got to keep it out.
Oh.
For some reason, why my speaker settings got all screwed up because it's Google Hangout. All right. So.
I'm actually not. Is she saying anything? I'm having trouble. I'm not hearing anything still. I just heard that once.
Yeah, I heard her once, and then.
All right. And both of you guys hear me?
Okay, there we go. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys just fine.
Oh, okay.
The best your volume does because I can hardly hear.
Yeah, we're having a little problems hearing you. Can you hear the air conditioner in the background?
No, but let me go to my office.
Okay, I just want to make sure because we have an AC running on our side here. We're sitting at almost 100 degrees, so at 9 o'clock at nighttime, and it's like really hot still.
I'm hoping that it cools off of my.
Okay.
Is there a way to turn up your speakers?
No, this is the loudest they go. Do you have a pair of external speakers we can use?
No. The ones for my computer would be pretty hard to but I can hardly hear anything.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in Pennsylvania. It's just that right now we're in the middle of a heat wave. So
yeah, it's supposed to hit like over 100 tomorrow.
100, yeah, 105 tomorrow.
Oh, shit. I had to like deal with this
Yeah, it's supposed to hit.
wave with me like trying to go to work today, and it just
Still
feel
seems
like
delaying us. Let me see what I can do.
Yeah, give us a moment here. We're trying to. I apologize here. we're trying to. We have some people who are listening in. Some of our friends who are listening into our stream here with us. So we want them to be able to hear what we're talking about, so they can hear you too.
all right.
This is Bluetooth. But could
Yep.
it plug right up?
Yep. Nope. I can. Yeah, you should be able to plug it right in.
Okay.
So
Let me grab the cable for it.
Yep. That's a USB cable, so we can just plug it right in.
It's actually the one that I gave you earlier.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just change the setting here and that should help us hear Rebirth a little bit better.
Because that speaker is awesome.
Yeah. That's the only downside about this computer I have. Like, it is a great computer, but the speakers are like the worst in the world. Go ahead, I'll let you control that.
Likely do that myself.
To be honest, I've never tried this. It might just try to charge it.
No, it should. I should be able to go in and as soon as the speakers. What's it?
Called Wonder Boom.
Wonder Boom. Okay, let me see here. You know what? Let's do this. Keep it plugged up. But what I want you to do is, you got the Bluetooth on?
Well, that shows it's probably trying to sync to my cell phone.
Okay. So here. Bluetooth on.
Well, couldn't you just log in on my computer? Do it that way? Then we have my speakers. Yeah, but plug your microphone into my computer and.
Is your Bluetooth actually on? Turn your Bluetooth on, so we can sync.
I already turned it on.
No, can we sync it to where you can sync it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I've only ever synced
One,
it.
two.
All right. Well, how's everyone doing?
Can you? Dear Lord, this thing does not want to. I mean, it's there to be discovered, but it doesn't want to discover it. All right, so give us a moment, Rebirth. We're gonna change it here for a second. Okay, so Eric, bring up your PC.
I was going to say that's going to be the easiest thing. We have the speakers there. All we got to do is plug in your mic.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot easier.
What's that? No, you're fine, Paul.
Let me log into the Sporkman.
Yeah, we need the Sporkman webpage and the. I appreciate everybody. Sorry.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, we're gonna switch. Right now we have it on my laptop because it's just easy for portability.
You want me to sign into the Sporkman Studios Google?
Yes, but you're also gonna need to bring up my Twitter feed because I need the Google Hangouts.
Is it 02?
For what?
Shonen 02?
04.
04.
An exclamation mark, yeah. Yeah, now everybody knows what our Google.
Well, and the thing is Google offered to save passwords and credit cards for every site, but your own Google login, it won't.
All right, let me. Okay.
What kind of Shiite is that?
All right, do you want to? Okay, so we need to bring the YouTube channel.
Really avid.
It's like really weird because every once in a while I keep hearing her, and so there must be some sort of delay going on.
Well, it was delaying us something awful.
right, just let me know
Yep.
when you're ready.
So
We're getting set up on a different computer.
All right.
Someone's got fireworks.
So, what comics do you guys enjoy?
Eric, go ahead and bring the mic over here. We're gonna disconnect here.
Well, we're going to need to switch your spots then so we can get the chair.
That's fine.
No problem. All right, where you can turn on your speakers here. Where's your? How you turn on your speakers?
Well, you had it up all the way. They're on.
Okay, because I'm not. Hey, Rebirth, can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
I mean, we're in here. Where's your audio? Okay, so speakers. Here we go. Okay, save. Oh, so it's signed in under you. Okay, and Rebirth. All right, can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
All right. Awesome.
Sweet. Okay. Sorry about that. Normally, I run off my laptop every night or every time I do a stream, but for some reason, why, my laptop just didn't want to play this time. So.
Okay, but hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Indie Table with our special guest, Sporkman Company. Alright, so first off, what sparked the idea for this comic?
Well, this was a number of years ago, but at the time, Chuck and I actually were sharing an apartment, and we would have lots of friends over because most of our friends at the time still lived at home, and so on weekends we would be up like really, really late, sometimes early morning. And the one night we were just throwing out names for all kinds of ridiculous superheroes, and our friend Chris had said, "Oh, well, Sporkman, he's got all these sporks on him." And so it was kind of just like a joke that we would come back to time and time again. We'd be like, "Oh, Sporkman and everything." And so that's really the genesis of the whole idea.
Huh. Why Sporkman? I mean, that... But yeah, it seems like some of the best books, like some of the best ideas, it comes from like when you're truly not thinking about them. Seems like.
Yeah.
I agree. That's the thing is when you're sometimes when you're so tired, like in this case, we were like really tired. We're just like, we're just off the wall goofing. And, we came up with a lot of characters that night. And this is the only one that stuck, really.
I still remember some of the other ones, though. They're in the back of my head. I can still think of some others.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to know these other characters now.
But I mean, with the evolution of the character, I mean, really, what it came down to was in 04, in 2004, Eric, I mean, took it to a concept into reality. From us just having this idea and making a actual costume.
Yeah, and that really, I mean, at that point, we weren't at all considering doing anything with the idea, because it was almost kind of like just a private joke, and the costume was made for a Halloween party that my wife and I, every year we would have a big Halloween party, get a lot of friends over, and it was kind of my top secret costume that I was working on. I didn't tell anybody about it. My wife knew, but I didn't tell any of our friends about it. And I said, yeah, I'm going to do this big reveal and everything. And so, both Chris and Chuck that helped create the character and develop it, they were both at the party. And I just come walking into the room in this Sporkman costume. And it was about the same time where my wife and I started going to conventions for the first time. And we really liked the idea about doing the costume contest. And so I entered as Sporkman, and people absolutely loved it. And they joked about, oh, when's the comic coming out? So I talked to Chuck and Chris, and I said, you know what? Maybe we need to make a comic of this, because people, it was actually a little surreal, because it was just some made up silly costume I did. But so many people wanted photos with me in the costume that, like, I almost felt like a celebrity myself. Like, people were like, hey, yeah, we don't care about these other guests. We want to meet Sporkman. And it was just so surreal.
Yeah, I think I've actually seen that on your YouTube channel.
Yep. Yeah, we posted that. I dug it up out of the mothballs and threw that up there.
All right, so what makes Sporkman different from, like, let's say, the other comics that's out there?
One of the big things to me is, we try to keep a lot of, like, we try to keep the humor in comics, because comics are about being fun for us. It's not always has to be political. It doesn't always have to be,
it
serious.
never really has to have a message, so to speak.
Yeah. So
and we just kind of set out to make it fun and make it funny. And like all the issues we've done, it's usually been a concept where we're just like, wouldn't it be funny to do something like this? And we could, poke fun at certain tropes and things. The first issue we did was conventions, and it was one of those things where we said, well, okay, well, what do we want the comic to be about? And I'm like, well, why don't we just have it about Sporkman at a sci-fi convention? Because that's where people really got to know the character, like, publicly, publicly revealed. It wasn't in a comic. It wasn't in anything. It was literally me in the costume. So we said, well, why don't we kind of flip that on its head, and we just make that comic Sporkman Conventions. That's about him at convention. And then for the follow-up three-parter we did, Sporkman Goes to Japan. Again, that was an instance where sitting around and we're kind of laughing about these different anime tropes, like, oh, there's always giant robots, or there's always cute little animals, or there's speed lines and stuff like that. And we're like, why don't we have Sporkman go to Japan, and he like sees all this stuff for himself. And within the comic realm, stuff like speed lines, it's like, yeah, that actually happens in Japan and doesn't really happen everywhere else in the world.
All right. It's odd because it's like to me, the most important thing a comic should be able to do, for me at least, is to one, forget about my day at work, and if it can't do that, then fuck it. Two, it should be fun. Like good art, uh, a good story behind it, and it should be fun. If it's not fun, then I don't really see the point of like actually writing a comic or drawing a comic at this point.
I mean, I think there's always a place for, there is always a place for surreal comics, like, when you're dealing with political things. But right now, I think because political is bled into everything, we need to get back to, like you said, fun comics. There's a reason why comics had the original names funny. You know what I mean? So the whole concept is, I think comics have lost their origin of what they would. And I think, for me at least, and I'm sure Eric might agree, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring back that original feel, like, of fun comics.
And I think you could use the word simplistic, and that could be taken in a negative light, but
Hey,
it's kind of simplistic in a good light. And what I mean by that is, I had known this guy was a coworker of mine a few years back, and he was an enormous Batman fan. But like, he hated the Chris Nolan version of Batman, and he didn't like a lot of the modern stuff. And he's like, I used to like it where Batman was just, there was a supervillain, he had some plot, and Batman foiled the plot, threw the bad guy in jail or Arkham or whatever, and that was it. Like, he actually liked stuff where it was just really simple and straightforward and just told a quick story, and it didn't necessarily have to be an enormous story arc, or it didn't have to be really serious and deconstruct the hero and the psychology of it and everything. So, I think you can actually have something that is simplistic and not be a negative thing. It can just be recreational, which is why we get these. We don't get these for any other reason than just, I want to read something in my time off.
Right, and I think like the main thing is it's like this huge difference of using politics to help tell your story, and then using it as the main story.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. There's it's part of the storyline, and then there's other times where it's that sort of stuff is used heavy-handedly in a way of saying, well, I had this in the story because it's a message, and then I'm having it in the story just because it's part of the story, and unfortunately, I'm comics have gotten to the point where it's more about, no, we want to tell you our stance on everything. We want to have a message, and the message isn't just, be a good person, don't be a bad person. The message is, this is how I think things should be, and how I think everyone else should think.
And I agree with that. You are a white Nazi, which is really ironic for me.
Well, every time I hear message, it's like I think about because one of my favorite movies is Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood, and
That's still a mouthful.
and you can tell, and that movie is so funny, but it still has a message within it, but it's not the main focus point of the story. And I think that's, for me, you don't have to do that. You can tell a good story. You can but you don't need to be heavy-handed on everything, in my opinion.
Right. Like I said, it should be able to help tell the story, but it should not be the main focus. And I think that's one of like the main issues that these creators are having. And I am pretty sure that none of these people are like actually having fun. Like there's no passion in their work. I don't get that.
Well, I think for me, I think part of I think they have lost, like, I think it really is, you know, they're so ingrained to this ideology that they are forgetting why they got into comics in the first place, because they wanted to have fun, they wanted to be in the medium and tell a story and everything. But I think they lost sight of it because they've allowed their politics to invade everything. You know, I'm very political, you know, myself, but I don't let politics rule everything. You know, I have to get away from it because too much can be a bad thing, in my opinion.
Avid comic reader says I have story arc fatigue right now with modern comics. It deters me from jumping right in. I can't agree with you more. It's one reason why I've never been as big a comic reader as Chuck, but one way, for the longest time, the only comics I read was back in the 80s. I read Transformers, and it wasn't because they were comics, it was because they were Transformers. And what kind of got me into comics was actually when I went to a comic store and I saw Dark Horse Comics, and they had Alien and Predator stories. And the way Dark Horse did everything was they had story arcs, but they weren't story arcs that take place over years or have lots of crossovers. It would be 4 issues, and that told a story. And I liked that, whereas the traditional comics that were out with superheroes and stuff like that, you know, I'm not going to pick up issue 297 and it's in the middle of something that's a crossover with other comics, and I haven't read those, and I haven't read the comics that came before that, and I would be totally lost. You know, so unless I was able to catch it from issue 1, I would just avoid anything like that. And I stuck mainly to a lot of Dark Horse stuff where I could just buy a 4-issue miniseries and get the whole story, and that's all I needed.
Yeah, I remember the first comic I read. I'm pretty sure it was like Infinite Crisis, which was like this really confusing on my end.
Yeah, that was kind of like a standalone sort of what if, right?
No, Infinite Crisis was a whole year running event that basically.
Oh, Crisis on Infinite Earths, you mean?
Well, there was Infinite Crisis and Crisis on Infinite Earth, 2 different story arcs.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. See, this is one of the things is like for me, you know, like, I'm a wealth of
right?
I'm like a wealth of comic book knowledge. And Eric, every time we start talking about comics, because I want to talk about the other stuff, and he's like, what can you just tell me about this Transformer episode? Can we talk about this? Something very simple, because it like I lose them because there's so much history with that stuff. And that's one of the things is, you know, I want to avoid that with Sporkman. You know, we can have a story arc running throughout multiple things, but all the issues we want to keep them are self-contained.
Yeah, really, if you want to get into Sporkman and someone says, oh, well, where should I start? Well, you can pick up conventions, or you can pick up Japan. Now, Japan's a 3-issue arc, but you can pick either one of those up, and you get a self-contained story. You don't have to feel like, oh, I'm missing out on something.
Right. But I am like a comic noob, so there's like so many things that I want to go back on, like just to kind of see the character's history and whatnot. So yeah. All right, but let's see. What's your favorite thing about making this comic?
I think for me, like one of my favorite thing for writing the comic was just, you know, being able to sit with, you know, Eric and Chris, and we were just, you know, coming up with ideas and see how they would work, if they would work. A lot of times the creative process for me is that ideas, just bouncing ideas off of each other and seeing how, because that's how we do kind of the story process, see if it works, and we get this rough outline and then we build from there. And I think for me, that's one of the great things about writing.
I think I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead.
One of the best feelings with the first one we did, conventions, was getting the printed copies arriving on my doorstep and actually seeing the final product. That was just an amazing feeling, because it's easy to start and say, well, how in the world are we even going to make this a reality? And it's a lot easier than it was back when we started, because there was no digital comics, so that wasn't even an option for people. And the additional level of difficulty was neither me, Chris, or Chuck could draw sequentially and be good at it. So where a lot of people, you know, it might be a team where it's a writer and an artist, or the writer and artist are the same person. For us, we had to find an artist and we do the writing. And conventions was a lot of fun, and for whatever reason, everything came together so smoothly for that. It was amazing, especially because it was the first one we did. It was like we found our artists fairly quickly, and the story came together really quickly. Writing it came together quickly, and just everything, it was like magic. It was like magic in a bottle that we probably no other project we would ever do with Sporkman would just come together as easily and as perfectly as that did. Because we had some problems with Japan, where we said, well, we want to do a bigger story and we want to spread it over 2 issues. And you know, one thing that was difficult for us was it had a lot more action in it, and it was difficult for us to kind of storyboard that, because I actually was, even though I wasn't doing the art, I was actually doing a lot of the storyboarding for it, thinking, okay, well, this is what we can show here. And I was like, man, you know, the action scenes are taking up a big page count, and I can do a storyboard, but to condense it into the way it needed to be was really difficult for me. And at one point, I think I just kind of threw up my hands, and I let our artist storyboard some of those action scenes, and you know, just suggest edits where necessary. And we finally got to the point we said, no, it needs to be 3 issues. We can't fit everything that we need to fit in 2. And I know going forward, it's not going to be quite as bad, because again, now there's digital stuff. And we said, you know what, from here on out, if it's 50 pages to tell the story, it's 50 pages. We don't have to split it into issues. We can just do it almost like as a trade if it's a longer story. And let's just not worry about page count. So that's the way we're looking at things going forward. And we're not going to, you know, I think with conventions, that was 24 pages. And part of the reason why was that was the length of a traditional comic. And so we were trying to say, okay, well, if we kept putting out comics, we want to be consistent. But really, that's kind of like an old way of doing things. And it's like a big publisher way of doing things, that they still kind of go to that. But with indie comics, you're not really constrained by those same rules. So we're just not going to worry about it.
Right. It's like one of my favorite things about writing my comic Apple is when I send my artist like the script or whatnot, and he sends me like a new page like each month or week or so. And to me, that just makes my whole day. Like, basically something that I wrote is like now in picture form.
Oh yeah, it's a great feeling.
It is really a good feeling. Because I remember when conventions first got done and it was completed, and Giffney sent everything back. Giffney's our artist, by the way. He's from Indonesia, so you know we were dealing with time things. And when he would send stuff back to us, it's like we were like, oh my gosh! It's like our stuff is on comic form. It's like, wow. It's like, you know, it's a great feeling.
And the thing is I think really in the situation where you're not doing your own art, like it sounds like you're not doing that, and we didn't do that.
No, I can't draw.
It's a little bit like Christmas though, because I think if you're the writer and the artist, like art as an artist, you're always going to be the biggest critic of your own work. And at some point you have to say, I'm done, even if I think it could be done better. I'm done. And also as the artist, you're there every step of the way. You know exactly what you're getting, where when you have another artist submitting you stuff, it's a little bit like Christmas. Like you get the file and you're like, oh, this is so cool. Like this is something I thought of. And now it's there and it's made real. And so I think in some ways, not doing the art, you're able to have the advantage of that thrill every time you get a new page submitted.
Right. And it's like, I know I am this close to like being able to like this pay for page 5, and that right there is making me feel like, okay, these customers at my job, these fucking bullshit at my job, this is like all for this, like just so I can like have income to like help pay for my comics. So it's like when I'm having a bad day, just knowing that a page is like about to be coming up soon, it just does something. Really helps.
It does. I think in my case, like I agree with you on that completely. Because like I feel good, like because how many people can say I'm a published comic book writer? I have my work actually published, and it's available for anybody to read the work, and it's available in multiple different forms. Not many people can say that, but now with indie comics, almost anybody can write and get their idea out there.
And it's a great feeling too when you can actually meet people in person. Like Chuck and I went, we did Baltimore Comic Con twice, and I think was it Steel City or Pittsburgh Con? It was one out
Steel City.
Yeah, we've done like 3 conventions that, you know, early on when we first came out with the comic that we set up at. And it's a great feeling being able to actually talk with people, and you know, they can actually like look at what you have right there in person, and that's a great feeling too.
Right. It's like I honestly can't wait to get my stuff out there, and this, you know, one day knowing that my comic will be someone's get away from this the everyday fuck up of life type thingies.
Yeah, there's a great experience I had was I was at a local convention here, and for my day job, I'm actually a prop maker. And so my wife and I sometimes will go to conventions and set up and actually just be selling props. And we did one local, and we had enough space that we said, oh, well, you know, we'll take some of the Sporkman comics to sell. And so we had some there, and these 2 guys come up, and the one guy comes up to me and says, do you know the writers of Sporkman? And I said, well, yeah, I'm actually one of the writers. And the guy turns to his friend, and his friend pulls up the outer shirt he had, and underneath he had one of our Sporkman t-shirts that he bought like 5-6 years ago or something. And it was just like so cool that that guy just happened to be wearing one of our Sporkman t-shirts. And, you know, he's like, oh, yeah, you know, I wondered what happened to it, if you guys were going to do more comics and stuff like that. It was really neat.
Oh, that sounds really cool. All right, so I guess speaking of fans, how's the fan interaction, like at cons, or like do you see any fan art or cosplays?
Of Sporkman?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we had a really big one. Now, we've had some people do fan art where we kind of invited people, where we said, hey, you know, do you want to do fan art? And we'll post it on the website, you know, with your permission stuff if you want to. So we have a lot of different like fan versions of Sporkman that were done. But I think the most where, you know, they say imitation is the best form of flattery. Well, at the convention that we used to go to where I dressed as Sporkman, and Sporkman kind of became like a thing. I would actually dress up anytime we went to that convention. And there was this one kid who really, really liked it. He bought like all his parents bought him all the T-shirts. They bought him all the comics, and the one masquerade that they did, he comes out on stage, and at first, my wife was a little upset because she said he's doing a Sporkman costume, and I was like, yeah, you know, just whatever. And she was like, well, you know, that, he's kind of like copying off of us or something. Well, he comes out on stage, and he wasn't Sporkman, he was Sporkfan. And so he had like an outfit kind of like ours, but with a belt with sporks in it and holding our comic book. And yeah, he was Sporkfan. And it was like, that was awesome. Because, you know, I mean, we were no one. We're still kind of no one. But that he loved it that much that he dressed up as Sporkfan. No, it was just so cool.
Okay, that sounds like one of the cutest things that I have heard in a while.
Yeah, and he really was a really big fan of it. Now, I wasn't there, unfortunately. I wasn't able to make the convention. I had to work on my full-time job. But, you know, Eric actually took photos of him, and he's actually on our website and everything.
Yeah. Well, I don't know because I started redoing the website, so I'm not sure if he's there. I have one photo of him in the costume. It's not the best photo, but I do have one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have to see Sporkfan.
You know, Abbott actually put out a really good thing. Sporkfan, adorable. Will he be in a comic? We may just have to.
Well, you know,
hey,
ideas. Well, what there is a in Sporkman conventions where he's actually at a sci-fi convention, there are a lot of cameos in that unless people personally knew us, it would just gloss over. Like they would say, oh, well, that's just some dude dressed as an alien. But at the time that I was going to those conventions, I was working with a production company that was working on an independent sci-fi film. And so there's like a guy wearing a shirt from that film at the convention. There's an alien that was featured in their project. The head of the costume contest, the MC for that, like he's in the comic and he's dressed like the same way that dude does in real life and everything. And actually, and Chuck, Chris, and I are actually there too. Like Chuck and I are dressed as Jedi. and it's stuff that, you know, you don't have to get it, but people that know us, it's kind of funny. It's like, oh, you know, I know what that is.
Oh, awesome. Actually, I think my next convention starts sometime in August. I'm gonna try to save up and hopefully get one day off for work for that. We'll be able to.
Yeah, you know, when we first did our first convention was Baltimore, and you know, and that's a really unique experience because we actually got seated right next to Todd McFarlane.
Oh yeah, and that really helped. Like he wasn't literally right beside us. They kind of had him at his own booth table, kind of away from everything. But we were right at the end of our row, and then there was about 3 tables worth of space empty, and then there was his table, and he had this huge line and everything. Well, the great thing about where we were was we would constantly get people stop by the end of our row, and they would turn to us and go, "Who's that over there signing?" And we'd be like, "Oh, that's Todd McFarlane. But hey, while you're here, let's tell you about our comic." And we sold so many comics that way, where people probably just would have walked past, but they stopped to talk to us to ask who Todd McFarlane was. And then we were able to kind of reel them in and get them to buy something. So,
all right, well, that seems like a really good advertisement thingy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you ever set up at a convention, say, hey, can you set me up like near the celebrities or something? Maybe someone will ask you about them, and then you can pitch your comic.
I'll pay you guys $5. All right. So, I guess when writing the comic, have you guys ever had writer's block?
Writer's block? Oh yeah, all the time.
Sporkman Goes to Japan was really rough at some points where, and I'm not exactly sure why, but we thought it was very important that the villain's plot made sense, and there's kind of like the joke about actors. It's like, well, what's your motivation? And that was actually kind of important to us with the villains. Sporkman's motivation, he wants to be the hero. He's easy. But the villains, you want your villains to have a goal that kind of makes sense, and yet is, something worthy of not just villainy but super villainy. It's not like, I think I'm going to go rob a bank. That's fine if you want to throw that in the beginning of a comic and then you get into the meat of it. But, that would be awfully boring if that was the big villain for, a whole issue. It's like, I want to rob a bank. So it has to be a little bit more involved than that. And so we really went round and round and round for a long time, trying to figure out how the villain in Sporkman Goes to Japan, what was his plot? Why would he do this thing and not this other thing? So that was really tough for us. And the next issue we want to do, we've not seriously, because we've all had our own like real life stuff that we've had to take care of. So Sporkman was kind of in hibernation for a very long time, and we came back to the next story that we wanted to do, and we're still kind of going round and round on some stuff. We're like, okay, well, point A gets to point B, and oh no, do you want to do it this other way? And so there's still kinks we're even working out right now on the next story we want to tell.
And the thing is, too, you don't want to just, you don't want to just throw in stuff into a story just for in the story, because we do a lot of pop culture references within our comics, especially conventions. We had a lot of pop references, but even Goes to Japan, we're using Japanese pop culture stuff, and you can't just throw certain things in. They have to make sense. So really, we knew certain things we wanted to do, but we wanted to do them in a way that, one, respected Japan, two, that we could still make a really good story out of, and those things made perfect sense to be in the comic, not just thrown in there for safety, for any reason.
Yeah, and that's kind of the trick too, is there would be funny stuff where we'd say, well, we really want to have, this situation in, like, giant robots. Okay, well, how do we work that into the story? Because we really want to see giant robots. And like the next story we're working on, it's going to have underwater elements, and we're like, we really need to have a giant squid in this. And it's like, well, how does that work into the story? Well, we need to figure that out, because damn it, we're going to have a giant squid, And so sometimes with Sporkman, there's just things we want in because we think it would be
Hello?
All right.
Alright, so everyone in chat, how's everyone doing? Can you guys still hear me? Alright. How's everyone's weekend going? Okay, awesome. Seems like seems like you guys can still hear me. Okay. Alright, I'm about to mute again for a bit, so be back in a sec. $12. Alright, ma'am.
All right. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know what was going on. It was giving us almost like a little spinny loading thing for some reason.
All right. So, how much did you guys hear of what we were talking about?
I think like the last part I remember hearing is the whole Japan thing.
Okay. So yeah, we were talking about like how to fit stuff in correctly. You know, you don't want to we were talking about like putting things into a comic. We just don't want stuff into a comic sake sometimes for our comic sakes. Like for instance, like we were talking about like certain things. We wanted giant robots in the comic, but it had to fit in there purposely. You know.
So in some ways, what we wanted to add in dictated what happened in the story, which can kind of be a backwards way to work on it. But I know it's not unheard of. I know the video game Uncharted, the way the writers treat that is, and it is different with a video game because you're being interactive, but they would say, here's a set piece we want it to do. Wouldn't it be cool if the character had to do this? And then they would build a story around some of those set pieces. And it's not entirely unlike what we've done, where we say, well, we want to put this in the story. So, how can we go about that and still have it make sense?
Right. And it's funny. Like issue 1, it took me, I'm gonna say, let's see now. I thought of like the idea for Report like back in 2016, 2015, somewhere in that timeline. And issue 1, yeah, it was like hard to write, but for some reason, writing issue 2 is like, I don't know, it's like a bit harder because it's like I want to basically one up myself for like each issue that I write. And it's like, for now, I'm like trying to like take a step back to basically help with the writer's block or whatnot. And I think because of that,
It's just conventions though right now.
it's like because of that, that's like actually helping. And for now, if I can like this write 1 page a day and maybe 2 to 3 on my off days, then that's just really something for me.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is with us, you know, with us, you know, yeah, the second, it does, and it's true, it does get harder, you know, as you write your stories, because the first one, you know, like we said, it came very easy to us. When we got to issue 2 and 3, I think by the time we got to issue the 3rd issue of Sporkman Goes to Japan, we were trying to finish how can we finish this story?
Yeah,
I mean, we struggled with the ending. I think we probably put it on the burner for a couple months because we just couldn't come up with a good ending that we were satisfying that we wanted to do the story.
We also had trouble with the financing because we had a contract with our artists to do 2 issues, and when it went on, and we said, well, we're going to need to do 3 issues, and we were writing that 3rd one, and in between the 2nd and 3rd one, a good deal of time went by because we had to you know, raise the money to do it, and our artist, his costs went up significantly because he was getting more well known and getting more work on his end. So it was like, okay, well, you know, I think when we did the 3rd issue, it cost us almost what the first two were combined.
Yeah.
And you know, we didn't have a lot of money at the time, so we had to raise those funds, and we had to finish writing it. So 1 and 2 came out in probably like a few months or something apart,
probably about 6 months,
and then it was probably about a year till the third part came out. Which now, you know, looking back on it now, how we were talking about page count not being critical for indie comics, you know, if we had to do the whole thing again, we would probably just write Sporkman Goes to Japan, and it's 1 big issue, and it's not broken into parts. Now, there is an advantage with doing the parts, and that's that you can put out the story piecemeal, where someone can get a little bit more of the story, and then get more of the story, and then finally get the ending. But I think in hindsight, we would probably just write it as 1 thing, and that way you're not worried about, well, this is this page count, etc. And
yeah. You know, and that's the thing is, you know, like Mim said, you know, with writer's block, and that's the thing is, we just kept, even now with the next project we're working on, you know, we've been last year we've been milling on this project. We just keep writing to see like what works for us, you know, what we agree, and you just got to work through writer's block when it happens.
And sometimes just literally a break helps. I've heard about that with other authors. They said if you just sit there and try to like force the ideas out of your head, sometimes that's worse. Sometimes you just take a break, and it might even be something you see in real life that kind of inspires you, and you're like, okay, well, you know what, that's a better way to go about you know, telling the story. And you know, so with us, you know, we were having trouble wrapping our heads around the storyline for the next one we want to do, and we said, you know what, let's just sit on it a bit, and you know, maybe a couple months later, we got together and we said, hey, you know, had an idea how we could work around this problem, you know, that we were trying to get through. And I think that's really helped sometimes when you don't try to force it and you let it come naturally. Because with conventions, that's what happened. There was almost no rewriting for conventions or anything. It was kind of like, we want to have A, B, C happen, and just sat down and wrote it in very short order, and didn't really have to like go back and really edit a whole lot. We were pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I think for me, when it comes to like the whole issue thing, I'm just gonna just stick to like maybe 3 issues, maybe 3 to 6. Don't really know yet. And but I forgot what I was about to say. Alright, but yeah, like the whole issues thing, 3 to 6, maybe 22 pages. maybe 40, but yeah, it's like for me, if I just force something down, then 9 times out of 10, like when I recheck it, it's not going to make sense because I didn't feel that passion, and it basically just feels like I had to do it. And it's like when I get to that point, I have to just stop, just, I don't know, uh, go outside, maybe watch some TV, try to get that passion back, and then go back on my laptop and just rewrite the whole thing over again. And I have done a lot of rewrites for issue 1.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that does happen. When we were doing, like I said, when we were doing, conventions came easily, but with Japan, I think we did multiple rewrites because it just things weren't flowing correctly, and so we decided to go back. There's things we decided to change. Like I think the first issue did come fairly easy, but then as you got into the second and third one, there were things we had to change because the story, like originally the way we were writing it was like, oh, this isn't going to come out the way we want it. So, but anyhow, yeah, I mean, even for now, our we've gone through 2 ideas already for the next comic that we're working on, and we've kind of had gone back and done some rewrites and stuff like that, and where we want to take the project. So it is normal, and sometimes that's even a good thing, like you said. So.
Right. Alright, so why should comic fans try left? Why should comic fans give Sporkman a try?
Because we need the money. We need the money so we can make more.
That too, but the thing is, for Eric and I know for me especially, I love good comics and I want to support not just our comic, but other fellow indie comics and stuff like that. We're all in this together, and I think if we get the support we want, we show support to everybody else. I mean, anybody who knows me, I'm the one who handles the Twitter stuff. I'm always tweeting people out there. So, I want good comics. I want a good story. Sporkman, in my opinion, fulfills that and gives us what we want as comic people. So,
and like we said, a big thing about it is it's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And, you just get a self-contained story and you can say, hey, that made me laugh. If we're able to do that and make people laugh and enjoy it, then I think it succeeded in what we set out to do. But because really, almost the reason anyone makes art is for it to be enjoyed, and in a lot of cases enjoyed by other people. Most people don't just make a painting or something and then just say, I'm not going to show it to anyone. I'm going to lock it away in a room and not show anyone. And I'm just going to go in and stare at my own painting every now and then. It's like artists want feedback. They want people, hopefully to enjoy whatever art they're putting out.
Yeah. One thing I, really want to kind of think out, bring up, like Unranked Chevron did a really good review of our comic that I think, and that's what he said. He's like, we're fun, and that's really what it is you want something fun. This is it. If you like, say, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or you like The Tick, or you like just a story that is fun, that's why you should give us a chance, in my opinion.
Huh. Alright, say, in this thing that we call life, where this is so much going on, I think we all need like that that special thing to like just turn to and just make our somewhat fucked up lives a bit more um better, I guess.
Well, for me, you know, it's an escapism. You know, life, like you said, life is hard. So I don't want to be constantly reminded of life all the time. Like, you know, I'm working on, you know, my other character, Volt, Chaos, and, you know, coming up with ideas, like, you know, incorporating those ideas into his character. And, you know, I don't want to have life stuff in there. I want to be the what if. You know, that's one of the series I really loved from Marvel, and it's a shame they did away with it, was the What If series. You know, I wanted, and for me, Sporkman is that what if? What if we could live life in a comic world? You know, and we have heroes like Sporkman. What would he be doing? And for me, that's what I think we write about, you know. I mean, I don't know. Do you agree, Eric?
Yeah.
Well, I, for one, if we actually did live in a comic book type setting, I would probably just be like a villain or a anti-hero for my reason. I don't know why.
I think for me, like, I'm kind of like if I were a superhero myself, I mean, kind of the way I've approached writing. I think for me, I think there's a lot of Eric in Sporkman, you know. So we kind of like we created our own characters because they kind of represent us in some ways, you know. And Sporkman is what Eric a lot of time is what Eric wants out of comics. You know, I'm the more, you know, the grandiose Marvel DC guy and stuff like that. But Eric just wants some for fun, and I think Sporkman is another thing that fulfills that fun aspect that we like. So. So, yeah, so I mean, really, and that's why we want people to support our comic. You know, we really, you know, I do keep hearing on Twitter, everybody keeps saying, well, we want good comics, we want good comics, we want good comics. Well, here we have, you know, Rebirth. I know, you know, I'm all about, so I tweet your stuff out and other people's stuff. And for us, I'm like, well, you know, everybody's complaining about Marvel and DC, and we're like, well, give us a chance. You know, here we are. You can get our single issue black and white for 99 cents. Or if you want the collector's edition in color, you can get it for $2.99. That's less than a Marvel comic and a DC comic.
True that.
And I think like the main thing is it's like people concentrate so much on like the whole SJW type stuff that they forget that it's like other people in this community or whatnot that are making their own stuff. So if you don't like the big two, I don't know, like maybe give Sporkman a try or what's his name? Um Jack Irons to try. It's like it's so many different comics out there.
Yeah, and I think the indie comics, they, you know, the mainstream comics, obviously they're writing, you know, all the big characters and stuff like that, and they're characters that have been established for a really, really long time, but they're not really innovating. Like, you know, like, yes, DC has, that's Vertigo, right? Vertigo's,
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like DC has Vertigo, and that's kind of like, it's sort of has a theme that's a little bit different than the main DC universe, but they're still going to keep coming back to those same characters, whether they're Vertigo or DC, and they're all, for the most part, they're of the superhero genre, and the same with Marvel. That, you know, it's kind of the same thing with them. But the indie comics are really the ones that think outside the box. Mm-hmm. I mean, for us to be an indie comic, we're actually probably a little bit more traditional in that, you know, our character is a superhero. But there's indie comics that they're not just superheroes. I mean, there's some that are literally just drama, and there's some that are just more hardcore sci-fi and or psychological and stuff like that. There's been a lot of indie comics I read that had nothing to do with superheroes, but the storytelling was really good, and it was really something. It was something unique that you're reading it. You're not like, oh, well, this is just like a million other things I read. You can have a superhero and you can say, oh, well, Green Lantern, his powers are totally different than Spider-Man, but you're still dealing with a lot of the same things. Usually you're dealing with characters living a dual identity. So you get that. And then you get the people that know their secret or don't know their secret. And then, they fight supervillains, and, their powers may be different, but they're dealing with a lot of the same things being a superhero, where some indie comics, they can just really think outside the box.
Right, and I think that's like one of the main reasons of why I'm beginning to like indies a bit more than the big two, because it's like big two, it just seems like it's basically superheroes or whatnot, and that's fun. Like, I do love my DC comics. Marvel, that's a whole different story right there. But yeah, it's like with indies, it's like there's so many stories that I can like just dive into, and also it's like it's getting to that point of where, to me at least, indies are like about to be the future of comics. Like, maybe not now, maybe not next year, but somewhere in this timeline, I can say indies will like be taking over.
Well, I think with technology, especially with being able to be digital, that is absolutely enormous, and perhaps one of the biggest things. Because when we were looking at doing printing done, we did print on demand, which is what most indie people do because it's what you can afford. And we took a look at like the whole system of, okay, let's say we could get into Diamond. Here's how things work. Here's how price breakdowns work. And, we determined, we said, well, if we could not get a printer to print, thousands upon thousands of copies, I think like probably a minimum 5,000 copies, which would take us forever to sell as indie creators. But if we could go that route, or if we couldn't go that route and had to do print on demand and get distribution, I'm like, well, unless we priced it, at something ridiculous like $10, for a 24-page issue, I said we would literally be paying out of pocket for someone else to buy it. They're just the way the costs are broken down with the printing makes it almost impossible for indie creators to get their stuff published in a physical medium. And so that is one of the biggest advantages in my mind of being able to go digital now, where like when we started this, like that wasn't even an option. You had to physically print a book. So, that's something. And of course, the distribution of the digital medium, I would say, is one of it kind of goes hand in hand, but I'd say that's like one of the second big advantages to indie creators now. And so when you take the restraints off of the physical medium, that's what really allows indie creators to flourish. So yeah, I see them being a lot bigger in the future, but honestly, I see indie creators more ruling the digital realm, where Marvel and DC will probably continue to rule in the physical realm. And it simply is because of the distribution model and the costs involved. There's a lot of investment in not just this, but in a lot of businesses where you can say, oh, this would save us money in the long run, but there's no way in hell we would ever have the initial outlay of money to afford to do this or that. So I think that element is always going to be there, which is going to keep Marvel and DC probably top dogs for a while. But I think that's mainly going to be physical, because there's still a lot of people that want physical comics if they have a choice. So if they want a physical comic, yeah, they're going to buy a physical Marvel or DC comic. But when it comes to the digital realm, I think that's going to be controlled more and more by the independents.
Although, Avid brings up a really good point. Peter Semente from I always pronounce it incorrectly, but who does like some of the more independent comics and stuff like that. Well, he just was talking about doing on newsprint that you could get 500 issues for $250 color. So that if he can follow through with that, that's going to change the game big time.
Right.
Because
so like what that's
so basically you would get for $250, he could print a 500 run on newsprint, like the old comics we used to,
I'm sorry, I'm really tired, so my math is horrible.
$2, that's $2 an issue printing.
You're good.
Isn't that roughly what Kablam is though, right?
No, Kablam's like a little bit more than that. Right now it's like
but that to me isn't so big that I would call it a game changer.
It could be though, because he was talking about like if you go to like 1,000 and 2,500, the price would drop right down to 50 cents an issue printed. Like if you did like 1,000, he was showing like if you did 1,000 comics print run for, I think it was like $400.
Oh yeah,
it dropped down to like 50 cents an issue.
It would, but the thing I'm getting at is, like I said, it's twofold. The digital realm gets your foot in the door, but you still need the digital distribution, because even if you can get the comics made for 50 cents a piece, how do you distribute the hard copies?
Oh, he's saying 500 issues for 250 is 50 cents an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. But you still got to distribute the hard copies.
He would do it. He was actually talking about that he would, because I've been talking with him too about it.
Okay, because I don't know this.
Yeah. So he basically he's a independent third party publisher like Image.
Okay.
And he was talking about like he would actually do. He could do the print run and stuff like that, and he would actually advertise it through his company into Diamond and stuff like that. Okay. And it would actually go to like Walmart, because he's going into Walmart borders and stuff like that.
My concern with this,
and we'd have full rich.
My concern though with why that it's still going to be difficult to do is your retailers that are going to stock those issues. They're going to look at it as what is going to sell best. And they're going to say, Spider-Man's going to sell better than something I never heard of.
Well, the thing is, though, he's been actually doing really well because he's been releasing a lot of his numbers. Like, he's been doing really well in, like, Borders. Now, DC just announced they're going into Walmart now. So they're starting to go back into, like, a lot of these non-comic book shops and stuff like that. And if they can push that way, we can get more comics. I think there's like you said, like you said, Rebirth. I mean, I honestly agree with you too that indie comics are definitely going to be the wave of the future. I think we're the new Image, in all honesty, in my opinion.
Like I said, I think digitally we are
right now. Yeah,
because the other problem with distribution is, I mean, one of the big issues with retail just in general, it doesn't matter if you're selling widgets, whatever, is brick and mortars are having harder and harder issues selling merchandise. It doesn't matter what the merchandise is. Brick and mortars are across the board having a hard time. So they're constantly trimming down on what they sell. And they say, look, we can't afford to have a bunch of stuff sitting on the shelf that's not moving. Yeah. So they constantly get pickier and pickier. and trim the fat, and they say, look, what are the top 10 sellers of this item? And they're going to be like, well, we're not going to sell the 11th bestseller. We're going to sell only the top 10. And that's where it's going to be difficult. But I think digitally, I think indie's going to flourish. More and more, I think it's going to flourish.
I would agree. And you know, and we already see it, you know, we have Comixology, we have Comic Central. Rebirth, you're on the other site. What is that, Talos or
Tapas?
And that's huge. I just started looking into that. Jack Irons and Mordor are on that, and dude, the amount of comics, like there's manga on there from creators from Japan and stuff.
Is it another digital?
It's another digital store.
Nice.
And so really, like you said, I mean, digital is going to, I think there's this access, and you can pay like you can either buy like per Patreon by like donating to Rebirth, or you can actually buy like, I think, a membership.
Well, and the other thing about digital distribution is there's no inventory.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely huge for any sort of business, as if you don't have to worry about inventory.
Yeah, HP, you really definitely have to look into Tapias. It's really huge. I mean, I just looked into it. Jack Irons and Rebirth are both on there, and I mean, they have every comic you can think of on that thing. Because that's a great place for indie comics people to create, and they handle distribution right directly through there. You can buy the comics and everything. So, you know, and that's what I think. I think the big two will always be there, and Image will always be there. I think most people are getting tired of the prices, because the biggest thing I hear is, you know, Marvel and DC, $4. Now Marvel's talking about going up to $5 an issue.
Well, and it's absolutely ridiculous when a digital issue costs them nothing. Like, once they have the files, it literally costs them nothing to keep those files on a hard drive somewhere, and they charge the same amount as a physical copy. As BS. Because they're just laughing all the way to the bank. They're like, we're just going to pocket all this, and guess what? You're going to pay the same amount.
Yeah, Andy, I really agree with that. That's a really big comment. You know, we are. I think everybody's trying to do something different with indie comics. You know, whereas DC and Marvel, I think they really, they're really dropping the ball. But you know, in all honesty, though, I mean, I think both mediums serve a purpose, in my opinion. You know, because I like my digital comics. It's an easy way. I just have them on my iPad. But don't get me wrong, I still love having a physical comic. You know, so I am not discounting that physical medium is going to go away. I'm not the type of person to say that. And I know Eric agrees with that.
Yeah, I have a bunch of digital comics, but to be honest, like I generally don't read that way. Now, what I've started doing, because for one, I have a very short memory. And so for me, if I'm reading a monthly comic, I'll pick up the comic and I will have almost no clue what happened in the last issue. So what I started doing was I'll wait for the trades to come out, because generally they're grouped together by story arc. And sometimes even if there's a crossover between two issues or two series, they'll put it in a trade by story arc. And so I can pick that up, read the whole thing. I don't have to worry about forgetting anything. I can just read that whole self-contained story. And the advantage to trades, too, is if you want to keep them nice, you don't have to buy bags, you don't have to buy boards, and you can just put them on a bookshelf.
Yep.
All right. It's like, for me, I'm going to have to, like, just... It's like, I'm probably just going to, like, just stick to trades or whatnot. But the whole digital and physical thing, like, I know for me, I want to like have both, because digital or whatnot, like I said, and like you guys said, it's basically going to be just really important for indies. But knowing me and like the other fans out there, like, I basically have to have that paper in my hand. Like, that feel of it, the look of it is like, I need my physical copies also.
Yeah,
I'm the same way with regular books. Like my wife has a Kindle and she really likes it and stuff. But for me, it's like I just want to have that book physically in my hand. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I prefer that.
yeah. Even coming back to that in creating your own comic too. That's one of the nice things is when you get that that digital file or that original final print issue in hand, it makes you feel like, hey, I have something of value now. My work is printed. It's valued. You can't put a value on it in my opinion because it's your work and you have that in print and stuff like that. So and that's what I like. I think one of the reasons why I don't think that print is going to go away at all. Is it going to be less or more creators, or excuse me, is DC and Marvel going to do that? I don't know. I don't think that they will. In all honesty, I think that the big two are always going to focus on print. And I think Image is the same way too. But I think for us, sorry, cat just jumped down on cat just jumped down on the table here. So apologize there, guys.
Yeah.
Kylo on the
mic. But yeah, so that's the thing is, I think for us, it is something when you have that real item in hand. We talked about the whole thing with digital movies and DVDs and stuff like that. We're old school. We like having the print version. It makes you feel like you actually have something tangible for your money.
Having movies in a digital library is great, but I guess I'm like, if I could just put on my tinfoil hat for a moment, I hate the idea of a company having access to what is your stuff, essentially. And for whatever reason, has some glitch or some very, very fine print that nobody ever reads that says, oh, well, we can take this away from you. Yep. I'm like, no, that ain't going to happen. So, I don't believe in digital movies and stuff like that. I don't care if I have to build a bigger DVD cabinet or whatever. And I did hear of one instance where there was a guy who, friend of mine said he had a friend that had his whole digital library suspended. Now, it was only about 24 hours, but he had some movie that they suspected was pirated, which it actually wasn't. And for whatever reason, they suspended every movie that he legally owned, that they knew he legally owned, because they suspected he had one pirated. And boom, for a whole day, no access to any of his movies. Now, you can say, big deal, is 24 hours. It was a mistake. They got it corrected properly. And yeah, that's true. But it's one of those instances where you always say, if the power exists, the ability to abuse the power exists as well. And so for me, I'm like, I'm not letting them have control over my stuff. Now, I do go digital on music. I can't even remember the last time I bought a physical CD.
And it's becoming harder to buy because
yeah, some places aren't even selling.
Best Buy made an announcement by the end of next year they're not going to be carrying CDs anymore.
Yeah. But that kind of makes sense in a way, because digital, like iPods and iPhones and different stuff like that, has really supplanted.
Yeah.
All
right, I know we're kind of getting off there.
Yeah, I know we're kind of getting off topic and stuff.
I'm actually trying to remember when was the last time I actually bought a CD, and now my mind is just focused on that. So let me get back to topic. All right, so how far would Sporkman get into the Marvel and or DC universe? Like, if he had to, I guess, get into a fight, how far would he get?
Not far at all, honestly.
Well, are you like setting him in a match? Like, how would he do against another character?
Yeah.
Well, I think it would all depend on the character too.
Yeah, like I think he could probably go like he would be able to go like toe to toe with Batman or something like that, you know, because you know Batman has his gadgets. Well, what does Sporkman have? Gadgets, you know, the same thing. He's got a spork. Now if you put him against Superman, yeah, Superman's gonna clean his clock.
Superman's Superman, which is why I'm not a big Superman fan. It's like, oh yeah, one weakness, whatever. Okay.
No, right?
Okay, you also has magic.
So,
whatever.
So he says, could Sporkman take out Rags from Regina from Rags? No, I think he would actually try to hit on Rags.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he probably would. Yeah, he probably would.
Yeah, Sporkman wants to be a ladies' man, and he would just try to hit on Regina, and Regina would probably kick his butt for it.
Yeah, because already in like two stories and conventions and Goes to Japan, he has like a love interest in both. So yeah, he would totally hit on her. And I think if it came to something like say he had to fight Wolverine, he would probably be like, "But look, we have so much in common. Why do we got to fight? You know,
you know,
we both have, like the claws,
yeah, sporks and claws and stuff like that. Yeah, so really, like, I think if it really came down to the character, like, you know, if he fought like Daredevil or Punisher and stuff like that, you know, the human characters, he would definitely.
I think he could hold his own.
He could hold his own. You know, if you're dealing with anybody like superpowered wise, you know, yeah, he would definitely get his clock cleaned. But now Sporkman versus Wanpool, yeah, you might get to see that here a little bit, possibly. You know, we are talking. I don't know if anybody saw that. We are talking with Mr. Marvel that probably we might do something there. But you know, we haven't solidified that yet. So,
well, now I just want to see like a whole bunch of what ifs, and then Sporkman fights the DC universe or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Three issues.
Well, we have talked about doing almost like a Sporkman legacy, where we actually thought of like a futuristic version of Sporkman, kind of like Batman Beyond. Like what if long after Sporkman was gone, the mantle was taken up by someone else in the future? So that's something we might do at some point, but we'd like to obviously concentrate on doing more of like just the main character and putting out more stories. We have the one that we've been working on, like I said, for a while, just kind of breaking down the story. And then we have another one after that we really, really want to do. Like this next one's going to introduce a new hero. It's going to be a team up. And then the next one we want to do after that is going to involve a whole bunch of other new heroes. And that one we're really looking forward to.
All right.
The Blue Raja. You know what? If I could,
Spork and Dagger.
Nice. If I could do a crossover with Mystery Men, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Because I love Mystery Men. That is a great movie. Sorry to interrupt you there, Mortal.
Back when I used to do the cosplay, you would not believe how many people would come up to me and say, "May the spork be with you." I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, it's one of those things. It's funny, like the first 100 times, that you get it, and then after that, you're just like, "Ha ha ha." Okay.
Stop. All right. It's not funny anymore, guys.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, you know, when you talk about like other stuff we want to do, and one of the big things that we made, like our thing that in our universe is like superpowers really don't exist.
That's actually more unusual. Like a lot of the heroes and villains that we've created for Sporkman not even necessarily ones that you've seen in the comics yet, but ones that we kind of have waiting in the wings. Most of them don't have powers. It's kind of like powered superheroes or villains are actually fairly rare.
That's kind of like our kind of DC Marvel homage. We kind of flipped it on its head. Say, okay, well, instead of having all these superpowers, let's go something a little bit different.
Sorry about that.
No, not a problem.
All right. So, what is your preferred eating tool? Spoon, fork, or fork?
Well, I gotta say, as someone who has used sporks on occasion, part of the reason why Sporkman is kind of funny that he bases his persona around that utensil is they really suck at being a spoon, and they kind of suck at being a fork.
Yeah, they do. I've never got the point of like combining a spoon and a fork, because like you said, it does nothing except piss me off.
Yep.
They're horrible trying to eat applesauce with them. My wife and I, when we would go to conventions, a lot of times we would take snacks to have while we were working our booth, and she would get the applesauce in little cups, and sometimes like she would just be like, oh, I put a spork in there. And I'd be like, but you can't get the applesauce like in the creases of the bottom of those little cups because it's missing that part of the spoon.
Yeah.
And that is, like I said, that just pisses me off. And it's like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't want to eat now.
Well, interesting though you say that. Somebody actually asked about like what is like creating a arch nemesis for Sporkman, and we actually already have done that. The character's name is Foon Man. What a lot of people don't know, a spork is a 3-tined utensil. A foon is actually a 4-tined vessel utensil. So there is actually a difference. So he actually is the arch nemesis of Sporkman. Is Foon Man.
Huh. I see. I have no idea what a foon.
Like we even have conceptual art of Foon Man and everything that we've had for years. And in fact, I think I might still have the profile up. I had actually created a Foon Man profile on Facebook. So basically, like he was going, like anytime we had an announcement for something with Sporkman, I was going to use the Foon Man one, and he was going to like troll Sporkman. So like even online, like he would just be a nemesis.
Huh. Well, now I have to look up to see what a foon even looks like.
Yeah, it's pretty much it's
like a spork, but it has four tines instead of three, which they make 3-pronged forks. So I mean, technically, not every fork is 4-tined.
No, but primarily though, a primarily fork is 4-tined.
Yeah.
So
we're talking the finer aspects of cutlery.
Well, and that's the thing is we were coming up with like trying to think of like a good nemesis, and we actually did research into like utensils and stuff like that and what would be a good utensil name, and we just stumbled across this foon, and here it was 4-tined, and we were like, they made 4-tined.
There is such a thing as a foon.
Yeah. So we're like, hey, we can use that, So, but yeah, it's amazing, like the things that we even came up with, like nemesis. What was like the puffer, like another villain.
Oh my gosh. No. What that was from, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, we had actually at one point were fooling around with doing Sporkman as an independent film. And so we were like, oh, well, how could we like what kind of villain would we want to have in it? And we had a villain known as the Puffer. I totally forgot about that. We have to put him in not the one we're working on, but the one after that.
Yeah.
But he kind of would suit for this one. Though,
Yeah, he would. Yeah.
But no, I think we need to hold off on him. But
sorry.
Yeah.
See, we come up with ideas just clear out of the blue. You know, we could just be talking and come out with them.
That's
HPG Wellscraft, you said about a sidekick idea. See, Sporkman actually mentions that at one point he did have a sidekick, but his sidekick got promoted. And so it was no longer his sidekick. And we do want to go back and tell that story at some point.
Yeah, Sporkman actually hates sidekicks.
Sporkman works alone.
Those spoon straws made for slushies. Those are deadly. Well, yes, I was just getting ready to say that. Yeah, they're deadly because you cut the roof of your mouth with them.
Yep.
I'll actually be like a good villain for like your comic, the spoon slushy thing. And like his main thing will be like, I'll just cut people's mouths whenever they use my items to drink something.
He's like, but yeah. So you know, and that's the promoted over him.
Yeah. Pretty much his sidekick was actually doing too well. and kind of leveled up.
Yep.
Okay, I will be pissed at my sidekick, but that's just me.
He trust me, Sporkman does. That's one of the things is he does not. He actually we should actually mention in Japan why he doesn't briefly have a sidekick. You know,
Well, yeah, because he got promoted.
And we even said he got promoted. So that was one of the big things. So he's like, he does not, because they even asked him, does he have work with somebody? What about a sidekick? And he briefly says no, because he got, so
he will do team ups.
Yeah, he will do team ups, but he will not have an actual sidekick. So yeah, we actually, as I was talking with Avid a few weeks ago, and I was showing him like some of the team up stuff. Like we actually have like where in the Japan issues where he does an actual team up, and we go with a homage of the old like Go Lion Voltron style giant robot.
Yeah.
And
because they're in Japan, they're in giant robots. Damn it! There's going to be a giant robot show up at some point.
So you know, so he doesn't have a problem working with people and stuff like that. It's just he will not have a sidekick. That is his motto. You will not have a sidekick. Yep. Yes, and Dollarbin says a really good thing. Some wolves walk alone.
Yep.
I am one of those prefer the lone path.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see now. I guess, does anyone in chat have any questions or whatnot?
What's the little wrench for?
Mod.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that way I can put out the website.
Oh, okay, got you. Origins of Sporkman. We actually have some ideas on that. Like if we had done a live action movie, we had an idea for an origin of how that would happen. And with it being live action, we definitely grounded it in reality a little bit more. But you know, one thing that wouldn't be out of the question that we've talked expensive, although there is crowdfunding, which when we originally talked about it, crowdfunding didn't exist.
Yep.
Yeah, it's weird coming back and starting to promote Sporkman now, because like we're looking around and we're seeing all these changes that have made where it's like, back when we did this, digital comics didn't exist, crowdfunding didn't exist, digital distribution definitely didn't exist, and so it's like now we're looking at doing things differently than what we could before. For example, promotional items on demand, like you know, some of you might be familiar with like Cafe Press, Redbubble, stuff like that. You know, we wanted to make T-shirts. We had to have inventory, and having inventory on clothes is tough because you can have 20 different sizes and color combinations of something, and you get someone that wants something you don't have. Well, you missed out on a sale, and you're still carting all this stuff around. You got to store it. Whereas places where now you can get a T-shirt on demand, like Redbubble, T-Fury, different things like that, you don't have to maintain inventory. Now, your prices are going to be a lot higher, but you don't have to have inventory.
Yeah. So, you know, HP, you're asking a really good question. I'll get back to ND's question here. Who would I love to have a crossover with? I was actually showing Eric Red Rooster. That is who I really want to do a good crossover with because he's a throwback to the golden age of comics. So I would love to see a nice, good team up with Red Rooster and Sporkman. I think they would do really well together. If I couldn't do Sporkman, or if I couldn't do Red Rooster, I want to do one with Rags, with Regina. And we were actually kind of briefly tossing around a idea of doing a mech type manga or comic with Rags. You know, because Rags would have a almost like a Gundam type along, and then of course Sporkman would have the Super Mega Sporktron.
Oh, and ND Art Star said about the Sporkmobile. I always envisioned a Sporkmobile being a red and white Mini Cooper that has the sunroof so that the top of his Spork helmet can stick out the top.
All right, well, I for one wanted to see like the Sporkman and Rags thing, and also the Red Rooster sounds pretty awesome too.
Yeah, actually, sorry, Rebirth, but Abbott brought up a really good point. He was talking about the custom Gundam that Rags or Lord Reginald did for Rags, and he basically took the Gundam Unicorn and painted it in Rags colors and stuff like that, and it looks excellent. And that's
now it should have like real cloth like hanging on it.
Well, yeah, like it should, like, but like for me, like I really think Rags would be a great crossover because you know she's really grounded in reality and she's dealing with a lot of like the PSD issue and stuff like that. I think it would just be something different because you know we're taking her, putting her in a war element that she's used to, and you know we're taking Sporkman and putting him in kind of that same element, but he's going to be more about slapstick and stuff like that, where she wants to be serious. So we can have a really good crossover with them, in my opinion.
Right, like I can see it now. It's already bad enough that I can't find any pants. There's zombies. Now I have some dumbass bugging me, and he's just wearing sporks for whatever reason. I'm done.
Well, and one of the things is like Sporkman has a weapon that actually is a laser spork and stuff like that.
You gotta stop giving away everything in the comic. No one will buy it.
Well,
tell them all the surprises, right?
So yeah, so that's the thing is, you know, and I don't like the zombie thing fighting with Sporkman. I like just Rags herself, Regina. I think, you know, I love the idea of having the mech battles. I think that would be great.
How's he explaining her getting a mech? Because that sounds like it has nothing to do with the story.
Yeah, we that's something we just kind of tossed around because he's actually going to have like Momiji's going to have a mecha and stuff like that.
It would just be like a crazy ass sort of
basically a crazy toss up but mash up between everybody, and we're fighting in these huge mech battles and stuff like that with, you know, Gundam type, you know, mechas and stuff like that, which I think would be an excellent idea. But with Red Rooster, he's kind of more like, I'm not sure how Mitch is going with the idea on Red Rooster, but yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a more serious comic or if it's going to be a lighthearted thing. It's just, I mean, when
With the name Red Rooster, I mean, it's hard to like say that with a straight face.
It is, you know. So, but anyhow, yeah. So, I think that's one of those are some great ideas, and I want to do Wanpool, you know, because I love Mr. Marvel. He did a Teen Titans Sporkman, and we both really loved it. Yeah. So I think you know, doing something with Wanpool would be excellent. You know, I'm not big into him going into the DC stuff. I kind of want to have new characters that he can explore a story with, in my opinion, if I could. So that's just me.
Same. Okay, so are there any comics that you guys picked up for New Comic Book Day last week or Wednesday?
No, I haven't gotten this. Unfortunately, I'm a week behind. The only ones I got that are on, I'm going to be pick up the Detective Comics this week. I'm behind a little bit, but I'm going to be Black Ops, of course, comes out this week. I think for the first one, and then that I got on hold. I buy a lot of my stuff digitally now, so I don't really go to the comic book unless like a omnibus collection. The last one I just bought was Motor Girl, which I did a review on. So
yeah, I didn't go to Free Comic Book Day. My wife and I are in the process of looking for a new house and getting our house ready to sell, and it's been eating, breathing, and sleeping pretty much that nonstop. And usually I'm out for Free Comic Book Day because I'm a member of the 501st, and a lot of times I'd actually like troop the event for our local comic shop, and it's like it just came and went. Like I didn't even really realize it was Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah, Eric's the same way too. He doesn't really get individual issues and stuff like that on Wednesdays when the comics or when they do weekly releases. He pretty much waits for the trades on those. So
I have right now probably about 4 or 5 trades sitting in a bag on the coffee table that I haven't even touched in like weeks.
Right, I haven't been to like a comic book shop in ages. That's mainly because one, I am just low on funds right now.
yeah.
Two, I need to like find like an actual shop. And three, I am basically stuck at work, and by the time I get off, it's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'll just do this sometime next month.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting the trades can really add up. Like if you have 3 trades to pick up all at once, I mean, you can easily drop $60. You know, that's the only thing when you're not getting it piecemeal and issue by issue. You know, you can walk away with 3 issues, and that's going to run you $12. You walk away with 3 trades, and it's significantly more. So,
well, like I said, I just picked up like a couple weeks ago. I did the Motor Girl. That was $28. You know, for a floppy, and that's one of my biggest problems. If I'm spending almost $30 for a floppy, I want a hardcover. That's a lot of money to throw down on a floppy. Whereas I can buy, like the last DC one I just bought was the Superman Rebirth hardcover, $34.99, and it was a hardcover.
I don't really care for hardcover because of weight.
You know, either or. But yeah, so you know, and I agree with HP. I'm kind of more into supporting the group because of course last week I backed Jack Irons. I have Ferryman. I backed another comic called Liar. So I'm putting money in. I'm putting money into those things, and I'm doing a lot of Kickstarter and Indiegogo stuff. That's where my money's going, you know, versus really, you know, I'm waiting on the trades on certain issues. Like I'm still buying Superman because, you know, I love Superman. You know,
I'm upset I missed out on Cyberfrog.
Yeah, dude, I can't believe you missed out on that. That sucks.
Well, remember, I said I wanted to read the first ones first,
Yeah.
and I never got those. So then I didn't get on board the Kickstarter and stuff.
Yeah. So it's a shame Ethan's not doing it, changing it to a store. This is one of the things I think what's awesome about Zach and Ethan, and hopefully Mitch's Red Rooster is going to do really good. Ethan now sitting at the highest of 300 and what I think it was almost $400,000 in a month.
Crap.
400,000. I think he had like almost 9,500 backers.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, and you would think though, as like a stretch goal, he would make more available if he exceeded the limit.
March. It was actually over a couple days ago. I do believe it ended. I think like Wednesday was like the last day. Unless he changed it over, I might be wrong. I don't know if somebody could look into that. That'd be really cool. But yeah, because I was watching Ethan's live stream the other day, and he was like talking about because he had say in 72 hours, and they passed like 399 or 3,999.
Why I'm interested? I mean, like he gave his pitch what it was about, but it kind of like Sporkman. The name Cyberfrog just sounds so ridiculous that I love it.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice. So Avid just said it is extended for one more month.
Nice.
Awesome. So I'll be able to back it.
Yep.
Name like Cyberfrog and Salamandroid, which is like that is the most awesome name ever.
So it's like oh my gosh, it's like Ethan's doing the same thing too, because I've never read the other stuff, and I've always supported Ethan. I have both his Green Lantern and his Flash Rebirth, and they're autographed by him. So, and I've actually met Ethan, and so when he announced that he was doing it, I'm like, holy shit, I'm backing right away.
Right. And it's like I said, once I, save up a bit, it's like I want to do Cyberfar, because that just seems like something I would either read back in the 90s or just watch back in the 90s. So it makes me like that kid like feeling, whatnot. I know Jack, I definitely want to support, because I've read issue 1 and I love it.
Yeah, I haven't read Jack, but I'm actually Jack and I actually talk on some stuff that him and I kind of tossing some ideas back on some on a project I would love to do with him, and he's a great guy. So I really get I really think that let's back independent comics. So I'm going to plug Jack Irons right here. We're talking about the Ferryman. Back that. Also Red Ninja Momiji, a great comic. Back Mortal Rebirth. I mean, that's what we need. We need people to start backing us, or you guys too, so that way we can get these comics out to everybody, and we can push good creators and good works. That's what I'm all about.
Right. And it's like, I know for Ferryman or whatnot, like just the concept of it, I have to read it. It's like basically this
thanks, guys.
combining the afterlife and the whole digital aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like, come on now, I need that.
I actually came up with a tag because I'd done a review of Ferryman. I got to briefly get to read the next copy of it, and I really fell in love with Sean Campbell's work. His writing is great. I felt the art was off a little bit. I think if he got a better artist, I think he would really, or the artist even that he got would stepped up the game a little bit, because there were some major inconsistencies, unfortunately. But the story premise is awesome. And I actually came up with a tagline, what if the afterlife was hijacked?
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's because the way it tackles, I mean, it's tackling everything from religion, politics, and stuff like that, and it's basically saying, well, let's say this: what if everything you thought about the afterlife is turned on its head? So yeah, so I that's why I want to see that comic made, and I want people to know that. See you, ND. Thanks for appreciate it. I really want people to support Jack's comic. I really want people when Slick Jimmy comes out with his, I really want people to support this work because, the comic is the Ferryman comic idea is a fantastic idea, and it needs to be out there, because it's such a great concept. And I haven't gotten Eric to read it yet, but I just really love the whole premise of it. And I wish Sean would be a little bit more supportive on his, tweeting his stuff out and stuff like that. But I don't mind supporting him, pushing it out. So yeah, I definitely, if nobody has yet, please support the Ferryman, support, Rebirth. I'm all for pushing good creators, and I want people to support Sporkman too, not just these other good works. So I want people to support, us. See, hey, Jack just joined us too, by the way. Hey, Jack, we were actually just talking about supporting your comic. So
it was almost like he subconsciously got like this mental tickle. And he's like, "Hey man, I think someone's talking about me here."
Yeah, I actually showed Eric Jack Irons, and I thought you liked it because it had kind of the whole Western type theme and stuff like that.
Wait, what was this?
That was the guy I showed you who was wearing the duster with the bowl hat and stuff like that. Jack Irons.
Are you sure you showed it to
I
me?
thought I did.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Then again, I don't remember what I ate like earlier today.
Yeah. So but yeah, like and that's the thing is, with like Jack Irons, and it was like, I didn't get a chance to read the first issue, but I loved a lot of his artwork. I mean, and he's got, in talking with Jack, he's been a great creator. I mean, I've been enjoying it talking with him. So that's why I want people to support his work. Sean's been a great guy to talk with. Support their work, and I'm all for everybody supporting each other's work, because that's the only way we're all going to grow. That's the only way, and if nobody gets the stuff out there, nobody's going to be able to read it.
Right, and I think like that, I would say this bridge of support is going to be like just really important for like, getting everyone's stuff out there. Like if we can like, just help build each other up, and like this kind of basically either by helping out with like the advertisement side of things, or like, you know um basically like, just supporting the Kickstarter or the Indiegogo, or you know stuff like that.
And I would rather take, in my opinion, I would rather take my 10, 20, 30, $40, whatever, and I would rather put it into, say, Brian Pordello's new comic book coming out versus spending $20, $30 on a DC comic and I might not like, so yeah, I don't know if you saw that Rebirth, but they're talking about DNC's talking about releasing another series before even shipping Jawbreakers, which I'm not agreeing with that. I think he should focus on getting Jawbreakers out and then working on getting his other stuff.
Right, like for that, just take it one step at a time. Like you said, like focus on like comic number one, and then get back to comic number two at this point.
like I don't mind you. I mean, that's the thing is, you know, you can be writing issue number or your second comic because you should always be like a writer should always be writing. They don't want to give up writing and stuff like that. It's important. I don't mind.
Well, they always say with like a project, like if you're a writer for a movie or comic or anything, that you should know what you're going to do next.
Yeah. Completely.
You know? Or have some idea. And I think it's more important when if you're getting well known and you're considered kind of like a hot commodity at the time, and say you had a hit on your hand, you had a hit comic on your hand, or you had a hit movie on your hand or whatever, and then everyone asks you, they're like, oh, well, what's your next project? You might want to think about that, because they say everyone, because people tend to expect failure, that tends to be the norm.
Yeah.
Like, people prepare themselves for failure, but rarely are people prepared for success.
Yeah. And I agree with Dollar Bin here. You know, I would hope, I hope, you know, we would do that. You know, my concern with DNC is, one of the things is he's always talking about, like, not doing. So sorry about this, Rebirth. I want to kind of go back. So basically, there was 2 comic creators that didn't fulfill their Kickstarters. That's what I want him to do. That I want him to get this in people's hands first, and then start his second Kickstarter or Indiegogo once he's got everybody else's stuff shipped out. In my opinion, that's just me. You know.
Oh, by the way, HPG Wellscraft said earlier up in the feed about you feel pretentious promoting your own stuff, but you kind of have to get past that, and there is a line, I think, between promoting your own stuff and being pushy about it. Like, I am a veteran of many conventions, both as a vendor and also as just an attendee, and you do have some people that they really push their comic, and honestly, I mean, they have to get their comic into people's hands somehow, and so they tend to be like, well, check this out, blah blah blah, and they really promote it. And there's a fine line between being pushy about it and then just really, promoting it. Yeah. But you have to know where that line is, where you're not going to piss people off about it, but yet you can promote it. But you do have to kind of be confident in what your product is. You have to feel good about it. I mean, people aren't going to buy it if they don't think you're excited about your own product. If they're just like, oh, this guy just seems like he, crapped out this comic and doesn't really care about it too much, but he wants me to buy it,
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah.
Right. It's like, how do you expect me to help back the comic when it seems like, well, that passion that I should be hearing about, it's not there.
Yeah. So the way I look at it is, why are you doing the work to begin with? And that's where that actually comes back to, one of your earlier comments about, the pros. I think that's where they're at. They don't care about writing good stuff. They don't care about their work anymore. They just want to. They're just putting out much stuff to put out.
Well, when so many of your storylines are going to be issue based, they're going to be agenda driven and stuff like that. I mean, most things that get us upset enough where we say, you know what, I want this kind of change, or I want to promote this. In most cases, it's going to be stuff that upsets you. Yeah. I mean, that's why there's just so many people who are angry because someone else doesn't agree with them or whatever, and things should be more this way, things should be more the way I think, and that's going to rub off on your product if that's what you constantly want to do.
Yeah,
it's like, are you taking any joy in the stuff you're putting out, or are you angry as you're drawing it because I have an issue and I want to make everyone know that I'm upset about this and I think things should be this way? I mean, that doesn't seem like you're taking joy in your craft. That sounds like you should be outside and draw a picket sign instead of drawing comics.
Right. And it's like, you know what, guys? Um, just take a step back. All right. Think about what you guys are doing with your life or whatnot, and then just, I don't know, maybe have a small talk with yourself and just try to ask yourself, why am I trying to force my ideas on someone who just wants to relax at this point? I think like the main thing that they should be asking themselves. That and how many people that read my comics are Nazis.
Yeah. I don't think people, I think that's the problem is a lot of people aren't that way. You know, I'm not. Hey nerd, welcome. Nerd's with us.
Hey, hi.
So for me, I don't think a lot of us are. I think most of us, all we care about, and we've talked about it multiple times. All we care about is good story, good writing, good art. You know, I'm spending my hard-earned money on something. I don't want it to go to shit. I want it to go to something that I feel passionate about. I feel that it's worth my money, spending my money on. You know, I'm not the type of person that no, we're huggers, nerd.
I am a Nazi.
And for me, you know, that's what I want. You know, I'm taking my money. I want it to be done on something that I really love and I really enjoy. So putting my money behind something, you know, like I was telling somebody about an experience I had with one creator. We were talking about it in the one crowdfunding stream. You know, this guy actually edits a lot of manga and does a lot of work for Image, and I really enjoyed this comic called Wayward, and it's based on Japanese culture, Japanese mythology and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. But the dude was so rude to me. I'm like, dude, I'm promoting your comic, and you're gonna want me to turn around and I'm spending my hard-earned money on your comic? No, I'm gonna take it and put it towards something else.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about that. I'm like, seriously? Like why would you get all nasty with a potential customer?
You know, and I've said it time and time again that oh, Jack, definitely I would love to do a stream with you. One of the things for me is, you know, like, you know, and I've said this before, and I'm sure Rebirth, I know you've heard it before, that we don't have the luxury to piss customers off. We have to go after every sale that we can, because if I don't get somebody to, if I act like an asshole to somebody, that means money I lose and I don't get a new customer. That hurts both Eric and I. Whereas, you know, so I don't get these people acting that way. You know, that's just me, you know.
Right. It's like, I need your dollar so I could hopefully buy some paper towel for this week.
Yeah. You know, there's a whole reason why they always say art is a starving man's, is a poor man's.
Yeah, you ultimately have to do it. Like, I think there's probably very few people, and you know, they're probably delusional or something if they say, I'm going to get into this because I want to make lots of money. It's like, no, you kind of have to get into it because you love it.
Yeah.
Because you like it. Because most likely, yeah, you're not going to make a lot of money on it. I'm not about ready to quit my day job and say, I'm going to write Sporkman comics, because I know that would be a quick way to living in a cardboard box.
Yeah.
And my wife probably would not appreciate that. So You know,
now if Sporkman hit it big and we got a movie deal and stuff like that, then we might think about something a little bit different. But realistically, you know, and we've talked about this before, I'm not going to quit my day job because, you know, I love this project. I'm not about making money. I would like to make money, just enough money to pay back, and we make some money, you know, to fund the next comic and stuff like that. I would be okay with that, where we're not shelling out a lot of money on our own. Because I love Sporkman. I love the idea, and I want our project to succeed. Why would you want your project to fail unless you truly just hate your life and your projects?
yeah.
All right. Guys,
So-
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Go ahead and talk.
All right. So what's going on with Peter? So what happened? I guess it looks like he got into something. Did you see? Oh. See, look. So I guess Peter Semente. Did Peter Semente not condemn piracy or Booth? What? I'm not sure what's going on there. I didn't see the whole exchange. So Peter's the one from, and I know he said something about, yeah, because apparently, I guess, in Peter Semente had him and another artist actually ended up finding their comics on a piracy website.
Okay.
And I guess that really kind of set them off. And, you know, so yeah. See that's yeah. So I saw that exchange. He basically was, a site was pirating that stuff, and this, I guess, this other guy. So yeah, I mean, I can understand, you know, it's your IP. You got to protect your IP, and you know, I kind of sit in the middle. You know, if you don't have money, you know, and you go out and buy something later, is piracy okay? I don't know. You know, I wouldn't want people to pirate our stuff. So yeah. That nerd, they're pirating Peter's stuff, and it's just not theirs. There's a lot of independent stuff I've seen on there, like those websites. You know, because I tried to look to see if like our comics up and stuff like that. I have a couple of them that I follow, and yeah, they're all outside of the United States, and the comics are like $1.50, and they're being pirated.
See, that's the thing. You know, a lot of people would argue that, like, well, things are too expensive. If they were cheaper, people wouldn't pirate it. But the thing is that the people that pirate it's not necessarily about it's cheap or it's too expensive. It's, well, I can get it for free, so why don't I get it for free? And then I think really probably it becomes not necessarily like an addiction, but it's like they just get used to it. And it's like, oh, well, I'll just go in here and get this and a little bit of this and a little bit of this.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah, and so in Peter's defense, and I agree with him, you know, he's a small creator. So somebody taking his stuff and pirating, it may not matter to Marvel or DC, because half the time, you know, all the stuff that you get in piracy is digital anyhow. It's a web rip. And
work over $1.
So a lot, you know, and I know a lot about the piracy scene because I'm into computers and stuff like that. So I know a lot about all that stuff. So, and the thing is, yeah, so Marvel, DC, it doesn't matter. But for people like Peter or Image, that is important because they rely on any amount of money, because those are all creator funded stuff, you know. And I agree with Peter on that. If the other guy's being a douche, he needs to be a douche somewhere else. I would definitely
be a douche somewhere else.
I think I would take Peter's back on that when I saw that exchange.
Well, why would what I don't get is this other dude. Like, why would anyone argue for it? That's what I want to know. Like, just your basic argument. How do you argue for it that is a good thing that his comic gets pirated?
Well, because you know, it's the old adage that that you know, they think they're doing everybody a favor by making the comic available no matter what. The thing is, I agree with Peter. He said, you know, piracy is bad, and it's bad for small creators.
it is bad for DC and Marvel either which way. And I guarantee you, I bet you, and I've gotten to the argument about anime and stuff like that because I used to, years ago, and I'll be honest, I used to pirate anime because that was the only way you could get it. And, when it came out with Crunchyroll, and I still, and Eric will attest to anybody, even though I still pirated anime, I actually have almost probably 700 to 800 anime DVDs. But it is bad either which way. So when Crunchyroll and all those came out, it became a great alternative. So I don't pirate my anime now anymore. I buy my DVDs and I have Crunchyroll and Funimation. So I support, supporting the projects and stuff like that. When I buy my digital movies, I buy all my stuff directly from Vudu, or, I buy the DVD and stuff like that, if it's released, So, yeah, so that's the thing is, is it for, it's the whole might, right? Like Jack said, is it the right thing to do? Yeah, I'd have to agree with him, Peter, on that issue. Sorry, Rebirth. We were just talking about how defending, piracy and stuff like that. So, So basically, what happened was, Peter found out that a comic website. There's this comic website called the Comics like HQ. And they put all the weekly comics up online because I always check to see if our stuff is up there. And so basically he found all his comics up on the site.
Damn.
Yeah, and he basically he lost it. And I would agree with him on it, and so he basically stopped doing Twitter. Well, this other guy, I basically was being a douchebag about it. So,
actually, I think I did read that.
So, and like I said, I'm honest. I'm an honest person. I pirated before. Does it make it right what I did? No, it doesn't. What I did was steal. Like when the stealing, I went and I look at it this way: when I wouldn't want somebody to steal my stuff. So it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if it's a big company or a small company. Everybody gets hurt. Yeah, you might say, well, it's for, because the old, I don't know how, if you remember the old adage where, piracy on anime. Well, if we didn't have piracy in anime, we would never get the shows over here. Well, now we have everything legally. So
I think where it actually was beneficial was with Napster, because what was happening was the music companies were dragging their feet, not taking advantage of the technology. And it wasn't until they said, we're going to lose, or we are losing money on this, that they finally stepped up to the plate and adopted the technology.
Yeah.
I do say it was a good way to make them move their ass on it.
And I think if you put a dollar, 99 cents is not a lot to spend on a comic, in my opinion. $1.50, that's nothing.
No.
I think if you're, and I think that
that's
comes back
1980s.
Yeah, exactly, 1980s. Oh God, I'm showing my age. For like Marvel and DC, I think they're pricing themselves out. They have to go cheaper on reviews, or on their issues. That's the only. I have always said, the only way to really combat against piracy, one is you go after the uploaders. Okay, that's the first and foremost what you do. Don't go after the downloaders, because your downloaders, that's not going to stop the issue. You got to go after the uploaders. The second thing then is what you do is if companies and media companies would price their stuff at a good point that most people can buy it, you're going to see piracy drop off, because when people can afford a $1.50 comic versus versus say a $4.99 comic, well, people aren't going to buy a $4.99 comic because they no longer can afford it, because it costs them, their pull list is $150 more versus, you know, like with $1.50, you know, a comic or something like that. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, you know, we're in a really weird time, and I think it's partly why the comics industry is suffering, because piracy is way huge. I mean, it is getting harder, but it is still fairly large, you know. And downside is the comic industry doesn't have the weight behind it the way you know, the movie or the music industry does. So sorry, we were going, you know, off on a tangent.
I mean, that was like this really something to listen to. It was actually pretty enjoyable in a way.
Yeah. Nerd's like a freaking dollar. Yeah, I would agree, nerd. You know, $1.50 is it's not a lot of money. You know, if I could spend $1.50 on comics, I would blow more money on comics for $1.50.
I think
everyone would. You know, and I remember one of my first subscriptions. I graduated from a private school called Milton Hershey. My mother had passed away at an early age, but I had one of my first comic collections was Namor the Submariner, and he's actually to this day still my favorite comic book hero. His comics I could buy for $1 a month. I had a 6-year subscription, or a 3-year subscription to the Namor series because of it. Because the comics were $1. But then when they started jacking up the price to $2 and stuff like that, I stopped buying for a long time.
But you know what I would say one advantage to the higher prices is it probably to a certain degree can kind of show the difference between what people like and what people don't. Because think about it, if there's an ongoing title and they're not happy about it, if it's costing them $4, they're more likely to say, yeah, I'm going to drop out because I don't like the way it's going, versus if it's cheap. If it's cheap, they might just keep buying it because it's cheap.
Right, yeah, their money is $1. I agree with you. Namor deserves a movie. I actually thought about that they could actually how to introduce him if they ever redid Fantastic Four instead of having Dr. Doom as the villain, Namar's the villain.
Actually would be kind of good.
Because Namor against the Fantastic Four has always been pretty much a villain. He's always battled the Fantastic Four as a villain for the most part because of Sue Storm.
Well, you know what the only problem with that would be? It would be another Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, but if they got the right, director, I think it could be done very well. But Namor. That could get the whole Sue Storm. Yep, I agree, Jack. Yep. I mean that because then you have the whole battle for, Mr. Fantastic. He's trying to win Sue back and stuff like that. You could have a great angle with that. So I know. Like, it's funny. DNC actually, I kind of got in this discussion with DNC about that because he's like, yeah, he actually made a quote saying that there are no true Namor fans.
Yeah,
and I actually said to him, I said, you're wrong. I am actually one of the true Namor fans because I actually have every comic of his in the 90s from John Byrne, and I'm actually going back into the 70s and 60s and getting his stuff too. And I bought every figure I can of his too. So
yeah, I think Jack's right. With Aquaman, and a lot of people know Aquaman. I think because Namor isn't all that well known, I think if they tried to make a movie of it, a lot of people would say they're trying to rip off Aquaman.
Yeah. That's the thing is, Namor has always gotten the brunt of that because of Aquaman. But the thing is, Namor was actually Marvel's first character
ever created, and he was the first mutant ever created by Marvel too. So,
Really?
yeah. He was actually, a lot of people don't realize, Superman was written in 1938. He premiered in June of 1938. Neymar premiered 6 months after Superman did.
Do you have that issue?
Marvel #1. I do not have Marvel #1. No, unfortunately, it's high up there.
I imagine 30. Well, what's the earliest you have then?
I actually have stuff from the 60s.
Okay.
60s and
Did
50s.
they like start renumbering it at 1 at some point?
Yes.
Okay, so you have an issue #1, but it's not technically issue #1.
Yeah, it's not technically issue #1. Like I have the whole entire. I have 2 runs of John Byron's.
Okay.
Neymar series.
What are you missing? Like from the original, like probably a lot. Then.
Well, yeah, the original 1940 series, I have nothing for the 1940s. I actually have everything when he had his own run in the 60s called Neymar the Submariner.
Okay.
You know, and there's still a lot of issues I'm missing there because.
Would that like original issue 1 be kind of like your holy grail?
That would be my holy grail because that actually has him and the Human Torch, the original Human Torch in it.
Really?
Yep. Because they both premiered.
Wasn't he an android?
Yes,
eventually?
he was an android. So they both appeared in the original Marvel's #1 in 1939.
Okay, if he was an android, why didn't they call him the Android Torch instead of the Human Torch?
I don't know because they wanted him to be human. Yeah. His last name is weird. Like I've always thought it was John Byron, but a lot of people just have John Byrne. So, but sorry, Rebirth. We're like probably driving you crazy, huh? So yeah, for me that would be the holy grail. If I could, that would be like me akin to getting Superman, Action Comics #1. Like if I could get Marvel #1 in good print, I would be like, but that's still the last time I looked, a near mint copy of that sold for $350,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now was that? It was it called Neymar?
No, it was called Marvel.
So it was kind of like Action Comics.
Yeah.
It just had a generic overall name.
Yeah, because it actually had like 3 different heroes in it. It was Human Torch, Neymar, and I believe there was another guy who was there. He was kind of like oh man, what he they redid him in the Marvel projects. Basically, he was almost kind of like the Shadow type character and stuff like that. Okay. But anyhow, yeah, Amazing Fantasy. That's what it was. Yeah, Amazing Fantasy. Jack's correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, that was Amazing Fantasy #15. That was Spider-Man's premiere, but the original Neymar was called was Marvel's #1, the very first one, and then they rechanged the name to Amazing Fantasy.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, so
this moment in comics history.
See, like I said, that's why I said to you earlier, I'm like almost like a walking comics dictionary. But for me, like having seen Neymar on screen or seeing getting like that comic done would be like a dream for me. Like if I could do it, we've seen Superman and stuff like that, but. Sorry.
yeah. Now we know. And as G.I. Joe says, no,
it's half the battle. Yep. All right. Sorry, Rebirth. I don't want to hijack anymore. So.
You guys. Actually, I guess we can end it here.
Okay.
All right, but
it's getting kind of late. I'm getting kind of tired and punchy.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, Rebirth. I appreciate it. It's been a great review. I definitely once you get, I'd love to get you on our channel to do, discussion too about your project too sometime if you would want to, because I'm really interested to see where you're going with your stuff. So
awesome. Yep. And everyone in chat, thank you. for coming.
Yep, I agree. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
All right. Well, like I said, thank you for coming. This was like a really fun first live stream for me, and this hearing that passion you guys have for Sporkman, it's really something.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate it. We love the character. That's why, we create him, still work with him. I mean, when we originally took a hiatus from it for a little while, we kept coming back to it. We're like, we need to do something. We need to do something. We need to do something,
Yeah, it was just we had so much going on in our lives, and like I said, no one really gets into comics because of like, oh, this is gonna, make me lots of money. So it was kind of like if we were working on something, it was like, well, I'm going to work on something towards my career or something like that.
Yeah.
And so Sporkman was kind of just a hobby, and it wasn't just a hobby. It was a hobby that, that costs you money. Like every time you hire an artist or you have to get printing done, it's a hobby that's constantly going to cost you money. And so, for a long time, it just hibernated.
But we're back and we're stronger than ever.
Yeah. Yay.
All right. Well, good night, everyone.
Thanks.
And yeah, and I will catch you guys on like my next video, whenever that will be, when life isn't taking over. But I love you guys, and about to end it here.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Rebirth.
Talk to you later. Good night, everyone.